When you're watching Spider Man Homecoming, there are so many great things about this movie. I just want to start off by starting off with one of their mistakes. So, at the beginning of the movie, we kind of see like the aftermath of the first Avengers movie where they destroyed New York City and the aliens and stuff. And there's like this cleanup crew led by Michael Keaton, who plays the Vulture in this movie. Great choice. But he's in the movie. And then they do a time jump from when the first Avengers happened to where we are now. And if you know anything about like the timeline of the MCU, the attack on New York, the first Avengers movie canonically happens in 2012, but they put in the title card, they said 8 years later. So that would make the movie set in 2020, which makes no sense. And so I was kind of like, why did they do that? That's so stupid. Why? How could they miss that? You know, I was really blaming Kevin Feige. I still blame Kevin Feige for that one. It's like, how do you come up with that? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. But then you have to come about and realize that they just got bad information. They were like, the way that it was all set up was essentially everything that happened with like Thor, Captain America, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Iron Man 2, that all took place within like a year. You know what I mean? All of that happened in like a year or damn near the same time. So because of that, it was like I guess they got some bad information and they said that the movie took place in 2009. And so 2009, 8 years later, it makes it 2017. And thus, that's how we got the story. That's how we got the 8 years later, which is not good, but, you know, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So, essentially, that title card, that 8 years later, is a typo. It's messed up. And I also just don't think that it's connected to the overall story, I guess. Or it just, the timeline's off. You know, it doesn't work. And also I also just don't think it works in general. I think that this story should take place like around 2016, like after his fight with Captain America. Like that makes a lot more sense. So the way that it works is, I think the timeline goes, Spider-Man shows up in the spring semester of his, I think it's his freshman year. It could be his sophomore year. I don't particularly know. But he could be going into his junior year. But essentially he's 15 years old. So he would be a sophomore now in his second year. So he would be freshman at the beginning. At the end of his freshman year, facing Captain America, and then into the fall semester afterwards, it's him being this new version of Spider-Man, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to put together the timeline. But anyways, Spider-Man Homecoming takes a lot of inspiration from the classic 80s movies, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and other movies like The Breakfast Club. They just kind of bring together that like old school style to it. And I really like the way that they incorporated some of the old school music into it. I thought it was pretty fun, the whole concept. It's just a slice of life Spider-Man story. I feel like they do a good job balancing him trying to do high school and him being Spider-Man. It just comes with different challenges and struggles. And then they introduce the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton. I said he does a great job. I am kind of like, I don't know. I wish they had done more in the city itself, because they go, you know, they obviously go to Washington D.C. and they do stuff outside of New York City. Like they have like this truck fight. They do a fight in an alleyway in like a suburban neighborhood. Like you don't see them in the city all that much until the end. And even then, they're up in the sky, flying in the plane. So it's kind of like It's a little bit crazy how they don't use more of the city as a background, but I feel like that's what kind of keeps it. New York City is like a huge place, and I think that not being directly in the city all the time makes it feel just a little smaller. But they do some crazy things. They got Spider-Man fighting on a ferry. They got Spider-Man fighting in a plane. I mean, that's just crazy stuff. So, anyways, at the beginning of the movie, we see Michael Keaton's character being the cleanup crew for the Avengers fight with the aliens, with the Chitauri. But then they get taken over by Tony Stark and his cleanup crew. And so the guy's basically out of business. Adrian Toomes, who's in the comics, he plays the Vulture. And Michael Keaton is basically tossed to the side, and he's like, you know what? Screw that. You know what I mean? All of this stuff that we found and that we cleaned up, we're going to keep it, and we're going to find a way to, like, sell it and make money. And that's how the story goes. And then we see Spider-Man. We see Peter Parker, played by the brilliant Tom Holland. I think he just does a great job with this character. He makes him feel so... they just make him feel so nerdy, and at the same time so kind and nice, and just like your average everyman. I really enjoy his portrayal of him in this movie. So we kind of get a glimpse of what his life is like now, you know? What it is to be Spider-Man with the new Tony Stark gear. We kind of saw him record some video footage of him fighting Captain America and Ant-Man. We kind of got some Civil War stuff. We saw him get his new suit. All of that stuff was just really, really cool. All of that behind the scenes stuff, or that kind of like documenting on like an iPhone, like kind of vlogging style, I thought was really funny and like very today, you know, very today Spider-Man. He would do that. And shout out to Robert Downey Jr. for making an appearance in this movie. I mean, they make such great work of Robert Downey Jr. in this movie as Tony Stark. I think he's a really great mentor figure in this movie. It just works so well. I really enjoy it. And we'll get to the part that's like really good, but he does such a great job at being an inspiration and also kind of like a fatherly figure. He does just a great job of balancing sternness and support, you know. So then we see Peter living his normal high school life, and then we see him do his everyday little things, being Spider-Man, you know, sticking around, hanging out, swinging, catching bicycle thieves. He tried to stop somebody from stealing a car, and it was actually their car. And Stan Lee cameo, that's when Stan Lee shows up, and he's kind of like berating Spider-Man, or, you know, being upset at him. We see Spider-Man kind of like interacting with people and having like a regular life. We see him checking in with Happy Hogan, telling him about his day-to-day goings on, you know what I mean? Helping a lady and giving him a churro. We see him just basically doing the little mundane things, you know what I mean? It's not all fighting Captain America or, you know, dealing with the supervillain all the time. It's those little things that he does daily that are really fun, really, really cool. So then, during his night out as Spider-Man, he comes across robbers. I mean, I was about to say the Avengers. He comes across these robbers, and they're stealing from the ATM using the tech, the alien tech that Adrian Toomes is selling to people, to criminals, and they're stealing from ATM machines. And Spider-Man tries to stop them, and I like the bit where they're fighting in the bank, and he's kind of like, whoa, you guys are the Avengers. I know. Hulk gives it away, I think. And then he's like, Thor, Hulk, great to meet you guys. I thought that was funny because he didn't get to meet them, and you know, he didn't get to see them. I just like the little quips. I like the little moments where he gets to like joke and have fun and to fight. I also like that there were some consequences to that fight. I like the part where he's fighting them and then it turns really dark really quickly with the bodega getting blown up or like basically destroyed. And he's like, "Whoa, Mr. Delmar, are you in here?" You know what I mean? Trying to save lives, more prioritizing that guy's life than catching the robbers themselves. We see him just basically having a hard time balancing his life, you know, nearly dying and then coming home to his best friend, building a Death Star, you know, a Lego Death Star, and then having a secret revealed, and then going out to dinner with his Aunt May. I particularly enjoy his relationship with Ned. I think it's just really fun to know that there's somebody on his side that knows his secret. I mean, in this Spider-Man's version, I feel like a lot of people figure out his secret identity really quickly, and I think that works well for him. I think it makes him like an amateur at this, and he has to get better at hiding it. But anyways, we see him go to dinner with Aunt May, and I really feel like they need more moments with Aunt May. I really like Marissa Tomei's character. I like Aunt May, but I don't feel like she has as a powerful of a moment as maybe, let's say, Tobey Maguire's Aunt May. You know what I mean? I feel like there's more tender moments with her than this particular Aunt May, but I do like it nonetheless. Then I think we see. Well, now that Ned knows, he basically spoils that Peter Parker is like friends with Spider-Man because of his Stark internship, and he has to explain to Ned that like me being Spider-Man is the Stark internship. And so Ned kind of blabs to everybody like, "Peter knows who's Spider-Man," and then Peter's looking at him like, "Oh," you know. I think that's so funny. And then the love interest or like the crush that Peter has in this movie is Liz, and specifically that he likes her and he wants to like date her, but he's focused on other things. So anyways, she invites him to a party. They agree to go, and then Spider-Man's going to make an appearance. And then I think they show up on the day of, and they're immediately getting clowned. And Peter's like, "This is a bad idea. I shouldn't be here." But then Flash Thompson is just kind of like, "Yo, what's up, Peter Parker?" I thought that was funny. And I also thought that character not being the typical jock bully type was really refreshing, because so long you kind of like Flash Thompson is this jock bully, and instead it's just this nerd bully. And I feel like that's so much more realistic. I feel like that's so much more true to like what goes on. So anyways, Peter's about to make an entrance to the party, and then trouble happens. So we see him notice an explosion in the distance, and it has to do with those weapons that Adrian Toomes is selling. And now Peter's on the case. Now Peter's like, "I got to go figure out what's going on over there." And they get into this immediate brawl, and Spider-Man is kind of like, they do that Ferris Bueller Day Off bit where he's like running through the neighborhoods and stuff. I thought that was pretty funny. And I also thought the van, like him like webbing up the van and then like trailing behind it, was really funny. I like the alien technology being used. I thought that was really cool. All of it. I just really enjoyed that whole sequence. And then Adrian Toomes coming up with as Vulture, and Spider-Man's like, "Surprise!" And then he grabs him, and then he flies him up into the sky. And then Spider-Man's chute. He has like a parachute built into his suit, which is like crazy, but okay. A parachute opens up, and he's like falling down, and miraculously falls into water. And Iron Man comes and saves him. And I think that's a great example of, you know, maybe Tony learning from his mistakes, or learning about like how he can protect Peter in the same way that like Rhodey got hurt in Civil War, um, just because he got up to a high enough altitude, the parachute deployed, and it kind of saved him. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that it was really, I thought it was really sweet and touching that he added that so that way he wouldn't get hurt. And then he comes in and rescues him, put a tracker in his suit, put a heating thing in his suit so that way he can warm up. And then they have a discourse about the two of them where it's like, yo, you got to take it easy and just keep being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And Peter's just like, I want to do more. I can be more. And I really like that Tony is just kind of like, no, calm down. Like, it's not all, don't do that. Don't worry about that. Be Peter, be Spider-Man, be close to the ground. You know what I mean? Don't try to be this larger than life superhero, because it's disappointing. It's disappointing. So he's just like, be regular, have a normal life. And Peter's just like, no, I want to fight. You didn't think I was normal when I fought Captain America. And Iron Man's like, whoa, if Cap wanted to lay you out, he would have. And so keep it down, low to the ground, and make sure that you just have a good life, Think about your future. Think about what you want for yourself. And I really like that. I really like the idea of I just like how Tony is. He cares about him and he wants him to have something that isn't just being Spider-Man. Just like he doesn't want to always be Iron Man. He doesn't want to wear the suit all the time. He wants to be Tony Stark and have a life and be with Pepper. And, he thought that was his whole reason for signing the Accords, is that, like, I don't have to be Iron Man all the time and I don't have to make those decisions. That's for somebody else to decide, So anyways, now we see Peter is obsessed with facing Adrian Toomes, fighting the Vulture. We see him locate one of the, like, Chitauri energy cores. We see him find one of those, and when he finds it, he's kind of like, I gotta study this. I gotta learn about it. I gotta figure out about those weapons. So him and Ned are brainstorming and putting it all together. And so now we get to the academic decathlon with Peter and Ned. And so what's interesting about being a part of the academic decathlon moment is that, like, they go to Washington, D.C., and there's a moment when they go to Washington, D.C. where Peter has a choice to make. He can choose to be regular Peter Parker and go have fun with Liz and everybody, going into the pool and maybe having some fun with everyone. Or he can choose to be Spider-Man and go locate the criminals, go find Adrian Toomes and stuff. And in the end, he chooses to go after Adrian Toomes. And that's one of the moments that we're seeing, is that, like, he thinks it's his full responsibility to go after him. And, maybe it kind of is. Maybe it is a part of that, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, when you look at the final result of what happens when he goes after Adrian Toomes, it doesn't go the way that he intended or the way that he plans. So it's just kind of like, yes, he stopped him, kind of. Or, like, stopping him was, like, the main idea, the main point. But he kind of loses his valuable, like, high school moments. You know what I mean? Like, stuff that he would wish to have back. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, he goes after Adrian Toomes, and then that's when we meet Spider-Man's new, like, AI assistant, Karen. And It's kind of like it's kind of like his Jarvis or his Friday that Iron Man has. It was supposed to be upgraded when he was finally done with the training wheels protocol, and they hacked into the suit and they removed the training wheels. So now he has this whole new AI assistant. He has like all new webbing options and styles and modes, and we see like a little funny back and forth between him and her, where she's basically like, "Do you want to go into attack mode?" And he was like, "Sure, let's do it." And she's like, "Activate instant kill." And then he's just kind of like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 calm down, calm down. I don't want to, I don't want to really kill anybody." And so she's like, "Okay, deactivating instant kill." And he's just trying to like swing and do things like he usually does. But now that the suit's upgraded, he has no idea how to fully utilize the suit in its totality. So it's kind of funny seeing him like mess up and make mistakes and him being crazy and stuff. And then when he finally confronts the Vulture, we basically see him mess up. They fight. He gets stuck inside of a truck. He jumps to try to get out of the truck. He hits his head. He stays stuck in the truck. And then he goes to like some detention compound or whatever. And I like the idea that the choice that he made had consequences. Like, he didn't get to go to the decathlon or be a part of the team because he chose to be Spider-Man, And because he chose to be Spider-Man, there's danger. There's dangerous aspects to it. I like the part where he's talking to Karen and they have like a back and forth. I like where he learns how to use his suit. I like how he learns just about what he wants and who he is and like what stays on his mind, He's kind of like, should I tell Liz that I'm Spider-Man? What should I do? I like those little moments where he can just be Peter Parker inside of the Spider-Man suit. And then obviously he gets out. He learns that the Chitauri energy core is a bomb, and that if it's exposed to any kind of radiation, it could trigger it into exploding. And that's also another consequence of being Spider-Man. He's putting his friends in danger, like Ned. So I like the bit where they're going into the Washington Monument. I forget what that's called, but like he's going into that thing, into that building, and Ned has to put his belongings under an X-ray, and that counts as radiation. And I thought that was a brilliant idea, and that's what makes it like so dangerous. I also like Peter running through Washington, D.C. I thought that was funny with like his backpack. And then that whole sequence in the Washington Monument of him like jumping, climbing onto the monument, jumping over the helicopter, swinging, crashing in through the window, the small window, and then saving everybody in the elevator after the Chitauri energy core exploded. And he's basically holding everybody. I really like that moment. That's such a cool moment. And then he's holding everybody, and then he loses it, and then he gets it again, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing, everybody?" I thought that was such a funny moment. He's like, "Hey, how you doing, everybody? Yeah, me, I'm Spider-Man here." And he kind of does up his New York accent. You know what I mean? So he's an English actor doing an American New York accent, and then doubles down harder on the New York accent. I thought that was really funny. And then Ned is like, "Yes, yeah." And then Peter immediately breaks. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 big guy, calm down, you know what I mean? Stop shaking." And then he's like, "Yes, sir." I thought that was really funny. And then everybody's getting out of the elevator, and Flash Thompson's like, "Take my trophy." He didn't even win it. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was so funny. And then Liz is the last one out, which is like, that makes no sense, but whatever. And then Peter saves her. And then Karen's like, "This is your chance, Peter. Kiss her." I was like, what? No, it's not. And then he falls. And then they look down the elevator shaft and they're like, "Thank you." And then Flash goes like, "Are you really friends with Peter Parker?" I thought that was really funny. That's a good bit. And then obviously returning to home again. And still Peter's obsessed with finding Adrian Toomes and stopping the bad guys. And then he comes across the guy that he was originally selling the weapons to. He was going to sell Donald Glover. He was going to sell Donald Glover some weapons, some of the alien tech. And so he tells him that there was supposed to be like some sort of deal going down on the Staten Island ferry. And because of that, Peter should go there, or Spider-Man should show up and stop them. And then one thing leads to another. They get into a fight again. Vulture is fighting against Spider-Man. Spider-Man's fighting against Vulture and his group. And so the alien tech, the stuff that Adrian, the Vulture, is using, cuts the ship ferry in half. And now Spider-Man is like, "Oh snap, what do I do now?" And he's like webbing it all together. He's trying to hold it, and then it's falling apart. And there was this moment where the guy was like, "Yeah, Spider-Man," when he thought he saved them. And then it all went downhill, and it looked like the ferry was going to sink with everybody on there. And then comes Tony Stark, Iron Man, to save the day. You know, he comes through and he saves everybody on there. And then the guy goes, "Yeah, Iron Man!" And Iron Man starts helping the ship and evacuating everybody and getting everybody to safety. And Tony starts, lecturing Peter again. He's just like, "What the hell are you doing, kid?" You know what I mean? He's like, why are you doing this? And so they have a talk, and I think Peter was kind of like, "Listen, all of this happened because I was trying to tell you that this guy is selling these weapons, and you're not listening to me. You're not giving me any kind of like, there's no response from you. It's all Happy, and even Happy doesn't respond. I'm not getting." He's kind of looking for like this larger than life fight. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to be Spider-Man. He's trying to be something more, greater, larger than life, instead of just being himself. He's trying too hard to prove something to Tony, trying to prove something to everybody, but that's like one of the cool things about his character in this point is that like he's still fresh and young and like figuring himself out, like, man, what do I do? And so essentially we see Peter talking to Tony, and he's like, yeah, you know what? None of this would have happened if you'd listened to me, and if you even cared, you'd actually be here. And then opens the Iron Man suit, and now comes Tony. And I thought that was brilliant. Such great work from Robert Downey Jr. Such a great actor. And he goes, "I did listen. Who do you think called the FBI to stop them, huh? Who do you think led them there, I did. I listened to you. And nobody else believed in me. Everybody thought it was crazy to recruit you." And so he's just kind of like berating him and telling him that like, "Stop it. Like, come on now, kid. You're not doing the right thing here, So if somebody had died today, that would have been all on you. And if you died facing the Vulture, fighting these bad guys, that's my fault because I'm enabling you. I gave you that suit, I'm helping you out here. You know what I'm saying? So any consequences that happen to you is on me." And so he decides it's not working out no more. I need the suit back. And Peter's like, "How long?" "Forever," Tony says. I just love that exchange. It's just so... Usually like Spider-Man like faces consequences for his actions on his own. Like facing Adrian Toomes in Washington, D.C., that was a consequence that he faced alone. He missed out on the academic decathlon. He put his friends in danger by taking that Chitauri energy core with them. You know, those are consequences. Those are things that happen that, like, he doesn't get to enjoy because he's choosing to be Spider-Man instead of Peter Parker. So then, they take his suit, and Peter's like, I don't have any other clothes. And Tony's like, that's okay, we'll sort that out. And then they get him, like, some t-shirt and some shorts or whatever. And then we just see a little talk from Aunt May, a little pep talk, basically like, you know, you need to take it easy and essentially, like, you can't be everything, you know? Just focus on being the best Peter. And he does. He goes back to school. He figures it out. He gets better at speaking Spanish. He does get better at his classes and his friendship with Ned and building the Death Star. And he's just basically being himself. And we see the progress that he makes, you know? And we get to see him ask Liz out, you know, go to the homecoming dance. And so by then, he's basically kind of like, I don't want to say giving up on Spider-Man, but he's more so like, you know what? I messed up really big. Maybe it is time for me to take a step back and allow other people to handle what's going on. And so he's getting ready for the dance. He's so excited. He's like, yo, I'm going to take the girl I like out on a dance, out on a date. You know what I mean? Who knows what'll happen? And so he's getting ready. He's going to the dance. He shows up at her house. And then who answers the door other than Adrian Toomes, who is Liz's dad? And now he's just like, oh, snap. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, snap, you know? And then we meet Adrian Toomes. We see him in his home. We see his wife. Ooh, Adrian likes him some chocolate, dude. I thought that was so funny. I was like, oh, snap, dude. I was like, yo, that guy likes him some, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, you know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. I was just kind of like, when I first watched the movie, I was not expecting that. I was just expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, actually. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I definitely wasn't expecting him to be Liz's dad. You know, I was kind of more so, I don't know. I think maybe I had the idea that he was going to, like, attack the school, you know, going after Peter, instead of, you know, him being, like, associated with his date. But then anyways, now Peter and Adrian and Liz are going to the dance. And that car scene, I think that car scene has been talked about to death, but I'll just give my brief thoughts on it. It's really good. It's really nice to see the subtlety at which they have a conversation and how Adrian drops his guard about Peter right away, and then he becomes suspicious again. So I just like the whole, like, the context of it, like the underlying, you know, the thing that they're not talking about, but they're talking about, you know, the kind of, like, clues that are left out there. So then we have Adrian figure out that Peter is Spider-Man. He stares him down. He talks to him, and he kind of tells him that, like, yo, you gotta stay out of my business. You're not gonna tell Liz. I'm not gonna tell Liz either, because you saved her life, and I respect that. But stay out of my life, and nothing bad will happen to you. But if you choose to interfere again, I will kill you and everybody that you care about. And so, one way or another, we see a shaken Peter, and now he has a decision to make. Because he learns that now it's moving day for the Avengers Tower, because they sold it and they moved to another compound. And now it's going to something else, somebody else. And they're moving, and Adrian is planning to the Vulture is planning to steal the cargo on that plane or whatever from what they're moving. And so now we basically see Peter again have to make a choice. Do I be Peter Parker like I've been doing, or do I choose to be Spider-Man again and stop the Vulture? And ultimately he can't think about anything else. He has to go do this thing. He can't relax until he solves the issue. So then he goes out there to stop Adrian in his like homemade costume, which I like. I think it's pretty. It's not like flashy or anything, but it's just like it's whatever. It works. It works. And we see him face the Shocker. We see Ned helping him, saving him by like webbing up the Shocker, and that whole fight I thought was really cool. I like that bus sequence where he hits him, like he backhands him, and then he flies through the bus. I thought that was really cool. And Ned saves him. They fight, and now Ned is the guy in the chair. He gets to be the guy in the chair, and Spider-Man gets to go after the Vulture. And I don't know why, but I thought it was really funny that he borrows Flash's car. He didn't have to borrow his car. He could have just, swung over to where he was. And he messes up his car too. I just thought that was crazy. I was like, there's no reason for Peter to steal his car other than to basically ruin his life. So anyways, he steals his car, meets up with Vulture, and now they have another fight. They have another little talk or whatever. And then Adrian starts knocking down the pillars of the building, and it all collapses on Peter. He's stuck there, and now Adrian has to go up and steal the Avengers, whatever it's called, the Avengers cargo from the airplane. And there's this great moment where Peter's like really struggling. He's like, somebody help me, please, somebody help me. And he's kind of like just this kid who's like struggling. He's not like this Spider-Man in that moment. He's kind of just like helpless, He's treating himself like regular, but he has power. And that's what he realizes that Tony said. He's like, if you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it. And that's when he like comes into his own and he starts to realize, I can be Spider-Man, And he lifts up the concrete, and then boom, gets out of there, and now it's after Adrian they go. And Ned is helping him out. He's calling Happy Hogan to inform him that the Vulture's going after him. He's helping him out by giving him details on like the direction of his like phone, because he was tracking Adrian Toomes. And then they're going to fight in the plane, and that whole airplane fight sequence was really great. I really like that. There were multiple instances where I thought Peter was gonna like get sucked up by the engines, and he like webs it up and stuff, and then like there's debris falling and stuff. It's just like crazy. I thought that whole fight sequence was really cool. It was something I don't think we've really seen, which is why like that air battle, that air style is really, really cool to me. But anyways, eventually the plane comes crashing down near, I think it's Coney Island, and they're on the beach. Thankfully there was nobody out there, and they crash land. They fight again. Adrian is trying to steal some stuff. Peter's trying to like stop him. They fight, and we see the Vulture's like flying tech isn't working, or like it's about to like explode, and it does, and Peter's trying to like save him, and eventually he does save him. He gets him out of the rubble, or like out of his suit, so that way he doesn't burn to death, I guess. He gets him out of there. He webs him up. he calls Happy. He leaves him a little note, being like, "This is the Vulture guy. You know, I told you he was about to steal your stuff." And yeah, dude, he saved the day. I think that's the cool thing is that he saved the day. He stopped him from stealing the Avengers cargo and from stealing, potentially making more bad weapons and selling them to people and hurting people. It makes sense. And then comes the aftermath. We see that Liz's dad is like, we learn that Liz is like moving. Her and her mom are displaced. They move outside of the city or wherever. She's moving away. She's not going to be able to enjoy her senior year anymore. It's all kind of like, that sucks, you know? But those are the consequences again. And then we see Happy come over to Peter, come to the school, and there's a little funny bit where they're talking in a bathroom and there's another kid already in there and he washes his hands. And he's like, "Come on, let's go. We're going to go see Tony at the Avengers compound." And I just like the I like the look in Peter's eyes as he looks at the Avengers compound. And we basically see him like get what he wants. Tony was like, "Yo, I really like what you did, kid. You proved yourself, you know? I was wrong. I was wrong about you. I thought you were just going to be this nothing kid, you know? I thought you were going to be..." He was basically kind of like, "I didn't think you had it in you," or "I didn't think that you were going to be able to prove yourself or to do the right thing after your mistakes. But I was wrong, and you're doing the right thing, you know? So anyways, you're going to become an Avenger. Put this on." Shows him the Iron Spider suit. And Peter turns it down. And I thought that was really cool. I think that was the whole build-up, was that finally he gets what he wants. And he realizes that, like, it's not everything, you know? Staying close to the ground, being the little guy, that's where he wants to be. And that's what it's all about. And I like that. I like that he came to that realization. And he makes a really mature choice. And I also like that Tony's kind of like, "Look at that. Now look at me. Final answer, yes or no?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Okay." Kind of like this Bruce Springsteen-y kind of vibe I like. Cool. And I really like that they did that. And then Peter's like, "You were just joking, right? There's nobody behind that door. That was a test, huh?" And then Tony was like, "Yeah, you passed." He walks away and Peter basically has his head held high. He's happy that he's not choosing to be just a superhero. He's choosing to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and Peter Parker, you know? He doesn't want to fight another Vulture every single day. He just wants to do high school and help the little guy, you know? And then Happy's like, he's a good kid. And then we see Pepper Potts come back at the end, and they're basically gonna no longer announce Spider-Man as the new Avenger. They're going to announce their engagement. And it's so happy to see them back together. I thought that was so cute. Nice little progression now after Civil War, when they took a break. They broke up for a little bit. But now they're back together. I thought that was really sweet. And yeah, I really like it. I think it's really cool that they do that. So anyways, moving forward, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the end credit scene. I think there's like a post-credit scene with Peter getting his suit back. I think that's what it is. Peter gets his suit back from Tony Stark, and it's like, "It's yours, kid." And we see him put it back on, and then Aunt May catches him, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And then it cuts. I thought that was really funny. That was a that was a really bold move, telling Aunt May or revealing to Aunt May that he's Spider-Man. I thought that was really crazy. And then the end credit scene is Adrian Toomes in prison again. I mean, in prison with Scorpion, I think it is. And yeah, that's basically the direction that they were going. I think they were going to introduce Scorpion, but instead they, you know, essentially they're just kind of like setting up like, you know who Spider-Man is, and you're going to tell us. And Adrian's kind of like protecting Peter. He's like, if I knew who he was, he'd already be dead, so no. And I thought that was pretty cool. He has like some sort of like moral code or cares about Peter. But anyways, overall, this movie does a great job of like the high school tropes, the 80s influences. I think they do a great job with the fight sequences, the character moments. I think that it's all really, really, really fun. Zendaya is also in the movie, which is like, she had such a small role, but now looking at it, it's kind of like, it's really funny that she's a part of the movie. And like such a small role. She kind of just like has little lines here and there. I thought it was really funny. Anyways, the whole movie, I think it did a really great job balancing things. Obviously, the 8-year time skip, a miss. I think that there weren't enough shots in the city, like Peter swinging throughout the city. I would have liked to have seen the Vulture and Spider-Man fighting, like on the rooftops of buildings, or like Peter swinging up into the sky, or them fighting throughout the city and stuff. I think that would have been really cool. Obviously, we didn't get that, but what we did get, I'm still satisfied with, and I just feel like this is a great first movie for this MCU Spider-Man. I thought they landed it quite well, and you know, I really do enjoy this movie. I think it's kind of like it has a great balance for everything. If you like Spider-Man, there's good action sequences. If you like high school movies, or if you're like a kid and you're a teenager or whatever, and you're about to go into high school, or if you like those kind of movies, like this is a great movie as well for that. So it's got a little bit of everything for everyone. Funniest moment in the movie, I didn't say this, but Ned was in the chair and he got caught by like the principal or like one of the teachers, and she's like, "What are you doing here? There's a dance." And Ned's like closes his laptop and he's like, I'm looking at porn." Oh my gosh, that guy, great comedic timing. It's just so funny that he did that. So funny that they put that in the Spider-Man movie. I thought that was hilarious. So great moment. I really think that this movie is so fun. It's like a real coming of age movie. Good high school experience. Yeah, all around solid movie. And I'm a sucker for the Tony Stark suit, the Spider-Man suit. I think it looks really cool. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for thank you so much for listening. Not watching. Also, one more thing. I really think that there was so much skepticism with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, like coming over and being a part of the MCU as the new Spider-Man and whatnot. I think there was like I think there was a lot of like skepticism when he first came out, and then now having his own movie, he kind of like proved that I'm Spider-Man and I'm happy I'm Spider-Man and I'm good as Spider-Man. I thought it all worked together in this MCU. So yeah, this was a great movie of him being introduced and having his own movie and doing his own thing. I thought it was really cool. So rewatchability factor is up. I think it's a great movie. And yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.